Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Thank you for joining me today. Here we are, it's already May. I cannot believe it. Time is just going by so fast. But I'm glad you're here with me today, and we are going to talk about different ways to use small stamps. And these 5 cards that I have here, I have used different ways with my small stamps, and that's what we'll talk about. So let's get some of these out of the way and we will get started. On this first card, it's relatively straightforward. I use some smaller stamps to help build a scene, and I'll show you the stamp set. It's an old one from Stampin' Up called Bird Banter, and I kept this stamp set because I just absolutely love the sentiments, but also these cute little birds. But in the stamp set, you'll see there's this little branch of leaves and this little tiny flower. And I decided I wanted to use those to create a card. So I also used this stamp and this stamp. And I used my 2 smaller stamps to enhance the scene that I built using this bird and this branch. Here is the branch. And of course I set the bird on it. I stamped him and I fussy cut him and put him up on dimensionals. But here is the extra little branch of leaves and of course all the flowers. And I added more branches of leaves all around. I put my sentiments on, and then I just put some extra flowers and branches of leaves to create this little card, a little birthday card. Then I decided, well, let's do an envelope. And all I did was on the flap of this envelope was to stamp those 2 images, the little branch of leaves and the little flowers. And yes, I did. I used alcohol marker, you can see on the back of the flap, to color in the leaves and the flowers. And how did I get that little difference in color, the light and the dark? I simply used my lighter green to color in the leaves, and then I went back and I just made a dot with a darker green to just give it a little more definition, a little more interest. So that is one way I used my small stamps to enhance the scene and to decorate the flap of my envelope. So put this card over here. And then I made a small card. This is a square card, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. And we've talked about doing this before. I basically made my own designer series paper or pattern paper using again that little branch of leaves and the flowers, and I used the little flower stamp just to enhance the or to embellish the greeting. Then on the inside I added a few more of the leaves and the flowers. And yes, I made an envelope. And it's pretty much the same as the other one. I just changed the pink to yellow. But let's talk a little bit about making our own pattern paper. And I do have those stamps. And I have a piece of paper, and it happens to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Now, if I were going to make a larger piece of pattern paper, I would probably use larger stamps and maybe use these as fillers to fill in wherever there are some blank spots. But for something small like this, I thought it would be nice to just use the smaller stamps. So when you are doing your paper, and I'm going to put this piece of white paper under here. It's just printer paper. But usually what I do I just start out kind of in the center and work my way out to the sides. I do turn my stamp. Some people prefer to turn the paper. Whoops, I didn't quite get that one. But I prefer to turn the stamp. It just works better for me. And then you just keep going until you filled in the spaces. And don't be afraid to go over the side. That makes it look just very natural. Oops. And you could just continue and put more of these leaves on. And then for the flower, we just go where there's little spaces. And of course on this there's a lot of spaces because I didn't really fill it in all that well. But you would just keep going, and of course you could go off the edge with these as well. And just keep filling in your paper. Now I did color all these because it was just a rainy day outside, and I thought that would be something I could do, and it was very relaxing. If you don't like to color, you could just use different colors of ink for the branch of leaves and a different color for the flower. Or if you have stamps that are outlines and then they have the little filler stamp that adds the color, that would be a good way to use that type of stamp. But that's just all I did, was I made my own pattern paper, and then I used the small flower as an embellishment for the greeting panel. So we'll move on. Let me clear things away here. And on this card, I used a totally different stamp set. Not the birds, but another one that is from Stampin' Up, and it's a few years old now. And it's called Honeybee. I used this little bee. I just thought that was the cutest little bee. And I know some of you may not like bees, but you could use flowers or just whatever you have. Remember, we're about using what we have. We don't have to make the cards exactly like these. We can make them our own by using our own stamps, our own paper, and our own ink, whatever colors we have. So I decided to make this border of the bees, and I decided to have them all facing inward. You could have them all facing one direction. You could have them going different directions. You don't even have to line them up. You could have them going to the left and to the right. Just whatever you like. But then I carried the theme on to the little inside panel here. I just stamped one in the corner. And then even on the back, I put a little bee, because this is going to someone who just really likes her bees, her honeybees. So I will talk a little bit about how I did that, because I might do it a little different than some people, but you just have to do what makes sense to you. But because this is 4 1/4 inches wide, I knew that bee was around, it was getting close to an inch. I wasn't exactly certain how wide it was, but now I'm curious. It's almost 7/8, maybe 3/4 of an inch, somewhere between 3/4 and 7/8 of an inch. So I knew that I probably wasn't going to get 5 on there, because if I thought that I could get 5, I would have started in the middle and then gone out from there. But what I did was, had I started in the middle and gone out from there, I might have gotten something that looks like this. 3 whole bees, and then there would be partial bees on the end. I didn't want that. I wanted all of my bees to be in their entirety. So what I did, get some black ink. I just started on the end. And I have no idea how this will work out, because I just guessed, estimated. And if you don't like to estimate, what you can do is you can just determine the width of your stamp and sort of measure it out, mark off your areas, and then stamp. But I just estimated it, and I just put one on this side, and then I went and put one over here. And then I crossed my fingers. Thought, yep, that'll fit there. Yes, I can get another one in there. And I stamped. And then, instead of going up the sides, I just flipped my paper around and repeated the process. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you have a bee, a bird, flowers, doesn't matter. The process is the same. There we go. And then I had to decide what I was going to do for the middles, because I thought I might get 3 in there, but then when I was kind of just eyeballing it, no. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get 2. So I just did the best I could as far as making them even. And you know what? If they're not exactly even, it's okay. Looks like I did a much better job there than I did here. But like I say, this still looks great. So, you know, don't panic, don't fret. It's going to be okay. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side, except now you sort of have a guide to follow. You can kind of just, okay, right about there. And there we go. There's our border. Quick, easy, and then I just went back and used a marker to color in some little yellow stripes on them. And there it was. It was just that easy. And I did make an envelope for this card. And I made the envelope. It's a square. And so on the back, I just followed what I did here and made the border. Then I just put a little bee in the corner. So that's how I use the small stamps for this card. Okay, now here's another card with the bees, and this is on black cardstock, so I'm going to pop some white under here. This is a honeycomb stencil. I think it's from Catherine Pooler. And this time, I just used the bees as an enhanced embellishment. I mean, I still have the little golden embellishments here that kind of look like drips of honey, but I thought it needed a little more. So instead of just stamping the bees right on the honeycomb, I stamped them on the white cardstock, punched them out, and then put them on a punched honey-colored piece of cardstock for a border. They are popped up on dimensionals. And that's how I use the small stamps for this, as just, like I said, an enhancement or an enhanced embellishment. And then inside we have a few more bees. Then the envelope, I had fun with this one. I stenciled just the flap, and then I just stamped this bee directly on there and colored it. That worked out great with the gold color and the black ink. And then there's a little bee right here. So there we go. That was another idea for using smaller stamps. Then here's my Christmas card for this week. I used my very small stamp right here, this cute little ornament, as the focal point. And the way you do that is to just build up around it. So the focal point I've put on this white cardstock mat. I put the greeting below it. I embellished it with this little piece of baker's twine that I've tied into a little bow. Just put it on there, and I hand drew this little string for it to be hanging on. And of course I put it on some patterned paper on a hard base. And that is one way that you can make your small stamp the focal point. Just put it on a mat, build it up with the greeting, because the greeting also kind of becomes part of your focal point. And there you go. This teeny tiny stamp is your focal point. And inside, because this center of the stamp, this was actually two stamps, the ornament and then the center part. Well, I used that small stamp inside to just embellish my inside greeting. And yes, I did make an envelope for it as well. Now on the flap, I used the pattern paper. But here, as you can see, I put 3 of the ornaments and then stamped the little inside part. And that's the envelope for this card. Okay, so let's just go over this a little bit. Here again, I used my small stamp as the focal point. I used my small stamp to make enhanced embellishments. I used the small stamp to make a border. I used them, these 2 small stamps, to make the pattern paper and also to enhance the embellishment, or the to embellish the greeting. And then I used the smaller stamps to help fill out my scene that I created. And of course, I used those small stamps on envelopes. And let's see, I think this one has, like I say, these 2 are pretty much exactly the same. I just switched up the colors. So that's what I have for this week. I encourage you to look through your stamp sets. Get the most out of your stamp sets. Use these small stamps, not only with other stamps in the set, but use them on their own to create your cards. Get more mileage out of your stamp sets, and that's what it's all about, finding different ways to use the supplies that we already own. Thank you so much for joining me today. As always, information about these cards, the supplies that I used, and more can be found on my corresponding blog post, and the link to that blog post is found in the description of this video. I hope you have a very good day, and until next time, stamp happy.